It's just sugar, right? A simple, everyday ingredient. But what if I told you that sugar, this tiny, ordinary crystal, once shaped empires, fueled economies, and devastated millions of lives? At the heart of this global obsession was Salvador, Brazil, a city that rose to power on the back of sugarcane and slavery, becoming the economic engine of the Portuguese Empire. But to understand why, we need to rewind to an era when sugar was more than just sweetness. It was wealth, power, and exploitation. Welcome to the golden age of sugar, and the city that made it all possible, Salvador. The story begins in 1500, when Portuguese explorer Pedro Álvares Cabral, en route to India, unexpectedly landed on the shores of what is now Brazil. Some say it was an accident, others argue it was a calculated move to secure new lands under the Treaty of Tordesillas. At first, Brazil was valued mainly for its Brazil wood, prized for its red dye, but soon Portugal saw something far more profitable: sugar. Sugar was Europe's ultimate luxury, a product so rare and valuable it was nicknamed white gold. The demand skyrocketed, and Portugal needed a reliable source. Brazil's warm climate and vast open land made it perfect for sugarcane. By the mid-1500s, Portugal established sprawling sugar plantations, or engenhos, in Bahia, and Salvador, it became the epicenter of this booming industry. By 1700, nearly half of all enslaved Africans brought to the Americas arrived in Brazil. But this success came at an unspeakable human cost. Sugarcane wasn't just grown, it was built on slavery. To sustain production, Portugal forcibly brought millions of enslaved Africans to work under brutal conditions. They cleared fields, harvested cane, and labored in sugar mills from sunrise to sunset. By 1549, Salvador was named Brazil's first capital, growing into a wealthy metropolis. Its port bustled of activity, exporting sugar to Europe and importing enslaved laborers from Africa. The wealth generated here didn't stay in Brazil. It financed Lisbon's grand palaces, fueled Portuguese expansion, and cemented Brazil as the crown jewel of the empire. But Salvador wasn't just a city, it was a critical link in a massive global trade network. This was the era of the Atlantic slave trade, an economic cycle that connected Europe, Africa, and the Americas. Here's how it worked. Portuguese ships left Lisbon, carrying goods, guns, textiles, and tools, which were exchanged in African markets for enslaved people. These captives were transported across the Middle Passage, enduring unimaginable horrors, before arriving in Salvador. Once unloaded, these ships were filled with sugar, destined for European markets, and then the cycle repeated. By the late 1600s, Brazil had become the world's leading sugar producer, and Salvador was its heart. The wealth flowing through its port not only fueled Brazil, but also reinforced Portugal's standing as a global power. But no empire lasts forever. By the 18th century, Brazil's monopoly on sugar had collapsed. New competitors, the Caribbean islands, had entered the market. British, French, and Dutch colonies, with cheaper labour and shorter shipping routes, began outproducing Brazil. Salvador's golden age was fading. Yet, Salvador's legacy endures. The wealth created during its sugar era shaped its culture, its architecture, and its identity. The city became a melting pot of African, European, and indigenous influences, leaving behind a heritage as rich as the sugar that built it. Today, Salvador stands as both a reminder and a testament to a past shaped by ambition and suffering, and a present that celebrates the resilience of its people. The story of Salvador and sugar is a story of power, exploitation, and survival. It's a reminder of how one commodity shaped an empire and left an imprint that still lingers today. So the next time you add sugar to your coffee, remember, the city that once turned sweetness into gold. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. How do you say engine hose? It's a Portuguese word. Engenhos. Engenhos. Sorry, let me hear it.
Engenhos.
Can I hear it from the woman?
Yeah.
Engenhos.
Engenhos.
Was that
Engenhos, that's right. Engenhos. Very nice. I like engenhos. Well, I don't. That's slavery.